What's up, everyone? I hope you're good. Mike, how you doing, dude?
Well, I don't have any cursed items that are bringing me down. I don't have a death curse. So, reasonably well.
Reading about stuff like this always makes me second guess buying stuff from like Goodwill. You never know what you're bringing home.
Oh, no, that makes it more exciting. It's like cursed item Russian roulette. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, sure, maybe that decorative box you got is just a decorative box. But maybe it's actually the resting place of some malevolent spirit. And if you force that clasp to open, you're going to unleash hell upon your household.
Ooh.
I remember seeing a short horror film fairly recently about a woman who bought this wardrobe from Goodwill. And at night, there was this black figure that perched on top of it.
Oh.
And yeah. And it was this whatever this wardrobe was, it was like the vessel for this being.
Dude, I would set that thing outside and see if it appeared still.
In the story, she tried to get rid of it a few times, and then it didn't take. It kept coming back. The wardrobe, that is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, that's the thing with cursed items, and even in D&D, you get stuck with a cursed item. The only way to get rid of it is for someone to use a remove curse spell. Otherwise, it's stuck on you forever. Ooh. You see that fancy looking axe and you're like, oh, I'll bounce it. And then you touch it and then you realize that it's an axe of fumbling. And no matter what you do, you can never hit your opponent with that axe. And it often trips you up in battle and makes you worthless.
I'm going to see that as a little bit of foreshadowing and be wary of any treasures we find.
What? Come on. I don't know what you're talking about.
But if you guys possibly have guessed, we're going to be talking about not cursed items. We're going to be talking about cursed books specifically.
I wouldn't even call them cursed books. I would say dangerous books.
Ooh, I like that. That's better.
Because I think that's more of because it's not like if you own this book that you're cursed. It's more in, I think, how the books are used.
Books with power.
Books with power.
These are my kind of books. Well, I mean, it depends on what you got to do to get this power and what power you gain from doing these things. But
well, I mean, you can fly twice as high as a butterfly in the sky. So, it's in a book, Mateo.
You just got to take a look.
Just take a look.
So let's start off with a book or manuscript or whatever you want to call it. There's so many different names for these types of things when they were written a long time ago. But it's a book called The Orphan's Story. And it sounds normal, right? Doesn't sound dangerous.
It sounds like it could potentially be like some classic of British literature.
Yeah, it sounds completely chill. And that's because it is. It's the tale of a teenage dude from Spain who heads to America in search of fortune and adventures. And it was written in 1608, between 1608 and 1615, by an Augustan monk named Martin de Leon y Cardenas, who was born in 1584. And as I said, there's nothing evil or foreboding about the story besides probably a normal things one would encounter while traveling in the 15th century. Like hardships, setbacks. But the one thing that makes this book interesting is that even though it was written in the early 1600s, it took over 400 years for it to be published. And you might be asking why.
I was just about to ask why, actually.
Well, that's because anyone who tried ended up died.
How? So if they tried, they died.
Yes, sir.
Is this book fucking Pennywise? You'll die if you try.
There were multiple attempts made to publish the book, but the fact that anyone who worked on this thing died, it kept the book hidden for 400 years until it was rediscovered in 1965 by an academic named Belinda Palacios. And it was buried deep in the archives of the Hispanic Society of Americas. And when it was finally published in 2018, Belinda was interviewed on the subject. And now this is where reading up on this got a little tricky. There's plenty of info on this book and it being published in 2018, which is fairly recent. But almost everything I came across seemed to just skip over the whole curse part and its history. There's clickbait headlines, yeah, but the articles I came across were extremely vague when it came to the curse part, and so was Belinda. She said, quote, "When I started working on it, a lot of people told me that the book was cursed, and that people who started working on it died." And she said, "I laughed it off, but I was a bit apprehensive at first. It's taken a while because the people who have worked on it died. One from a strange disease, another from a car accident, and another from something else."
What was the something else?
I don't know. That's her direct.
I need to know.
That's her direct quote.
Was it bees?
Ooh, gosh, that'd be horrible.
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend it was bees.
Yeah, let's do that. If you're wondering why she didn't die from working on this book, I saw a couple things in a couple different places. In one place I saw that the warnings she laughed at first when she heard them, but she eventually stopped working on this book. But that's not before she passed it off to the Jose Antonio de Castro Foundation, who works on safeguarding Spain's literary heritage. And they're the ones who published the book, not old Belinda there. But it seems like she may have outsmarted the Hex by doing that, huh?
Maybe. Or maybe it's just waiting. Or maybe it manifested another way. Maybe it was like, you know what? We're gonna kill her hamster. Or maybe she had relatives that died. Maybe it was worse for her. Maybe just because she survived doesn't mean that she escaped it. Maybe she got it worst of all.
Yeah. I don't know. Would you be apprehensive if you were working on something so specific that's supposed to be cursed? I mean, it was hidden and wasn't found until 1965. And when people who were familiar with it or worked around the area knew about it, there couldn't have been more than a handful of people to work on it. And to have most of them die, wouldn't have that tripped you out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would think it was a neat coincidence. I don't know if I'd put any real stock into it, though.
Even if it was a job that, like, you know, it's examining a specific book, and in the past, let's say 50 years, there's probably been 3 or 4 people who've looked at it, and they've all died, like at least 3 or 4 of them.
See, I still don't think that, especially if it's not, you know, it's just like a regular, normal coming of age story, like nothing sinister about it. But then again, maybe that's where the danger lies. But I don't think I'd be thrown off by it. I think if anything, I would tempt the fate. I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking read it.
I would definitely be
said,
intrigued.
If my girlfriend found out about it, she would be like, you're not going anywhere near that fucking book, because she would know that I would read it, and she's like super paranoid about scary paranormal things. So all that she'd have to hear is the book is cursed and everyone that reads it dies, and she'd be like, you fucking even look in that book's direction, I'll fucking kill you myself.
Well, see, it's not that if you read it, you'll die. There's been plenty of people who've read it. You can read it now, but it's just it was the act of people who are working on translating it to be able to be published.
Okay, so it's not just reading it then. Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, then that goes that whole thing, because I'm not publishing that. I don't have a publishing company. Why don't we have a publishing company, Mateo?
Oh, we kind of do.
The Whatcast Publishers. No, I like a print publishing company.
That would be cool.
Yeah, let's do fucking newsletters and flyers and cursed books. Those are specialties. You know, you sign up for the newsletter. Sometimes you'll get a newsletter. Sometimes you get a cursed book, and your life is fucked. We don't guarantee results, and we don't guarantee you'll get the good newsletter. Maybe you'll get the cursed book 2 weeks or 2 months in a row. That's just your luck, buddy. So sign up for the Whatcast mailing list now and get a potential curse.
What's interesting about that is that there's some of these books that we're going to talk about, like this one. It's very specific on what causes this curse to be activated. But some of these books you don't need to read either. You just need to own it to where shit will go bad for you.
Well, I've got a book that's kind of similar to this one, except for the fact that it is a magic book. Like, this is an actual magical book. But it's another thing, like with your book where if you're translating it or trying to publish it, you die. This one is a book of magic that has these 36 pages in the back, and the final 36 pages, this weird 36 by 36 character grid. They're all letters, and just it's seemingly random placement of letters. So no one's been able to figure out exactly what they mean, what these three things in the back are, and are 36 pages in the back. And famous wizard John Dee actually had a copy of it, and he couldn't figure out what these 36 pages was.
Oh wow.
And John, we should just do an episode on John Dee sometime. But
we should.
I know he's come up a few times on the show. But John Dee, working through a medium, spoke with the angel Uriel and was asking for help in translating these pages. And the angel told to him that the pages of this book are special because they were revealed to Adam by the good angels of God when he was still in the Garden of Eden. So then John Dee asked the angel Uriel for instructions on how to read the tables at the end of the book. And the angel told him that only the Archangel Michael knows the secret to interpreting the last pages of the book. But then it gave him a warning, and this is how the book got its name. It's the book is called Soyga, the Book That Kills. Which is fucking such a cool name.
That's like a 90s karate flick movie title.
Yeah, it is too. It's known by a few different names though, but that's the most popular names, the Soyga, the Book That Kills. But it's called the Book That Kills, even though oddly no one has died. No one on record has died as a result of it. But the angel told John Dee that anybody who is able to find and use the secrets in the book would die within 2.5 years.
Oh.
But then but then just kind of like a fuck you to John Dee, it says, but you will live to be 100 years old. So it's like, oh, come on. What the hell? But after John Dee died, his copy of the manuscript just kind of got lost to time, I guess. As he got older, he was an advisor to Queen Elizabeth. But when he died, before he died, towards the end of his life, he ended up becoming, he no longer had the favor of Queen Elizabeth, and he became completely broke and destitute, and he had to sell off a lot of his books that he had to, just try to scrape by. So it's thought that maybe this was one of the books that he got rid of to sell. But it was lost for a while, but it did show up in the 1600s in the personal library of the Duke of Lauderdale. And it was on the title page of this book, it was referred to by its other name, the Aldariah, and that title, John Dee said, was given to him by the angels. That's the actual name of the book. But from that point on, once he died, again it was lost. But this time it was lost until 1994.
Whoa.
And there was a historian by the name of Deborah Harkness who was working on a dissertation regarding John Dee. And she was going through the British Library when, just looking through his old manuscripts and different things attributed to him. And she just happened to come across this. So at that point, they had a copy of it. So again, people started looking into it, trying to decipher it. And I think there was another copy that was found in another personal collection somewhere. But it was the same translation. So until 2006, no one could figure out how to decipher this book. But in 2006, this mathematician, James Reeds, figured out. He was also one of the guys who had been working, trying to decipher the Voynich manuscript at one point as well.
Nice.
But he figured out, he was able to crack the code. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing because it involves a lot of math and a lot of fucking wacky shit. I'll put a link to this article in the show notes that gives a complete breakdown of how this puzzle works. And there's even a digital version where you can create your own grids to disguise words. But what it was eventually figured out was that these grids give magical words. So to kind of give more of a mystical thing to this, each one of these pages is thought to hold secrets of the universe and possibly secrets of the creation of the universe. Now, in the Gospel of John, they describe the beginning of the world by saying, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God." So it's stating the power of these words of creation, and it's thought that the words that are in these grids, if used in a very specific way, could unlock unknown powers that could be unleashed on the universe, or potentially destroy the universe, or maybe create a new universe. Who knows? No one's actually put them into use. One thing to note, though, is that James Reeds is still alive. So he didn't die, but the thought here is that he solved the code. He didn't put the words into use. So maybe it's you have to decipher the tablet and then actually utilize these words, which has never been done.
He just figured out the words.
So he just figured out the way that these puzzles work, or I don't even know if you want to call it a puzzle or a code or a puzzle code. I don't know, but he figured out how it works and was able to create an online program where you can type in your own magic words, and then they will give you the grid that you can put, if you want to disguise codes and somebody who can do this code, and you don't want to go through all the work of creating the grid yourself, just punch in the word or the phrase you want in there, and it'll put in the whole grid for you. It's pretty fucking cool.
That is cool.
So we'll link that in the show notes so that you guys can check that out and read through all the math and everything involved with deciphering this code, because it's I don't know, it's a lot to go through, and I think it takes a certain person to be like, oh, that makes perfect sense, because when I was reading through it, I'm like, this is fucking nonsense.
I wonder if somebody was actively working on trying to solve this, or it was just this guy's perspective that solved it.
Well, I think it was just like this guy's a mathematician and he was using math to calculate what this could possibly be based on patterns, I guess. In the same way they're trying to find patterns within the Voynich manuscript to decipher that.
When I hear of codes being broken, I always wonder if there's some secret societies that have been working on that code and they've been waiting for somebody in the world to crack it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, but when a while ago when I was talking about the book, The Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts, the author had interviews with this mysterious person who goes by the pseudonym Terry Wrist. And he talks about actually meeting Indrid Cold and all these messages that are being communicated to people by these entities. And even the names of the entities, like Indrid Cold, means something. And he produced this whole cipher that shows what these words mean and what these names mean and how all these names actually have a meaning. It's all done using a cipher. Just like this is a type of cipher. So it's like this letter really equals this number, which equals this letter. I don't know. I'm not a code breaker, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But it's interesting that this was developed and just kind of tacked on with no explanation at the end of this book of magic. And I think at the time, like a lot of these books of magic, especially, going further back, when we're not talking like the grimoire magic, but like the forbidden books, a lot of them have certain things that need to be done before you can even get into the spell casting. Like you have to acquire a certain amount of knowledge and know certain specific words or formulas in order to get to the point where you can even start to do the work. I think this is an example of that. But it's called The Book That Kills because of this message. But like I said, no one's died from this book because no one has actually translated it. So who knows if this was all deciphered and then the magic words were translated and used in some sort of magic work. Maybe at that point you start the clock 2.5 years, but 2.5 years, it just seems like such a weird time frame, like 2.5 years. It's just like, it's not like 3 days or a week. You've got 2.5 years from this date. Mark it on your calendar.
We're giving you time to wrap shit up and prepare yourself.
Yeah. Get your affairs in order, because on this day you shall die.
Not too far, not too soon. Somewhere nice in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, what an asshole.
Yeah, that's a long time to sit there and wait for death.
Yeah, I guess when you're looking at it that way. But, I wouldn't let it bother me. Because I wouldn't believe that it was going to happen. And if it did happen, then it was my time, man. And that's the way she goes. But magic books are dangerous, apparently.
I believe it. All the goofy stuff and regulations and rules that we see now. I mean, I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was talking with somebody about, like, you remember being a kid when music started getting the advisory stickers on CDs and music and shit like that. That always, you read about why they're doing it. As young minds are influenceable by this shit and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, it's, young people aren't that stupid. But there always is a couple people who are. And it's sometimes bad things happens because of things like that. So you just see these exaggerated examples of things that may have come from something that happened. So I definitely believe that at some point in time, there was a dangerous book.
But what does it mean?
You see censorship on books today. It's to keep the demons away. People,
because they are words of curse.
Yeah.
So, you know anything about any scary magic books?
There's one that I came across, and reading about it, I fucking got confused with some shit, and I talked to you about it briefly, and you know a little bit about this book, but it's called The Book of Sacred Magic of Abramelin? Melon? What was it? It's a weird name. I want to say Abramelin. I want to say Abracadabra and Merlin. That's what my brain says, so it fucks me up every time.
Abracamerlin.
There we go. This is supposedly written by a dude named Abramelin, Abracadabra Melon, Magic Melon, and it's written.
I gotta correct you right out the bat.
Okay, see, I found different things. I saw so many different things, so these are kind of my questions. So go for it.
Okay, so it's written by a guy named Abraham of Worms, and
that's a place in Germany, correct?
Yes, yeah, not like crawly worms. Although, either way, it's a fucking cool wizard name. I am Abraham of the Worms.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, and he's like a fucking necromancer, and he's got maggot golems and stuff. It's fucking cool.
Well, no, that's what they used to call dragons, worms, right?
That's worms with a Y.
Well, maybe it used to be with a Y, and he's Abraham of the Dragons. Fuck yeah.
No, I want creepy crawly
okay.
worms.
That would be just as cool.
Yeah, because that'd be super creepy. But he wrote the book about meeting a mage named Abramelin who taught him this magical work.
Okay, see, I came across something that said that Abraham wrote the book for his son Lamech, which is...
Yep.
Okay, well, that's where I got confused because my mind went to the Bible, Lamech from Genesis.
Oh, okay.
So I was What, is this supposed to be written by Abraham from the Christian Bible?
No.
I was like, what the fuck's happening?
This is a much later Abraham. He lived in the 1300s, I think.
Yeah, that's when was this book supposed to be written? Because I got a bunch of dates. The oldest manuscripts were dated to be from
I think the early 1600s
1608.
were the earliest manuscript. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And the first printed version dates 1740.
I'll believe it.
Okay, and the first translation into English was done in 1902 by Samuel Lytle MacGregor Mathers, who was a British occultist and founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing about his translation, though. The sacred book of Abramelin the Mage, Abramelin the Mage, that book, it consists of 4 books. The translation that S.L. MacGregor did only translated 3 of the books because he was using a French manuscript that was found in Paris that only had 3 of the 4 books. There is a newer translation. I can't remember who did it, but it contains all 4 books, and it's based off the German version.
Yeah, I read that was due to trust issues that people had with MacGregor, and he was given the shittiest version and copy to work with. So his translation was very questionable. It was later translated, I couldn't find out when exactly, into English by using the earliest and most complete sources by a couple of dudes named Georg Dien and Stephen Guth. And they actually gave credit to the writing of a book to a Rabbi Yaakov Molin, who was born in 1365 and died in 1427, making the book older than what they originally thought. So it seems like somebody gave old Sammy the shitty version on purpose, so maybe he couldn't figure it out and do some devil magic.
Doing that devil magic.
But that kind of led me to an interesting thought that I had, and I wanted to ask you about. If the Sammy version was used, which it most undoubtedly was with his Order of the Golden Dawn stuff, if his version was used in rituals by himself and Aleister Crowley, but turned out to be a shitty translation that wasn't the real shit, do you think they tulped some type of magic powers? Because they both supposedly got results by using this shitty translation.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily a shitty translation. I think it was an incomplete manuscript. So they had the original version was written in German, and they had a translation of that version that was translated in French, which they then translated to English. So you're getting a translation of a translation at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with a lot of magic, it's the intent and the focus combined with the ritual that makes the work so potent. I don't think you're ever going to get a exact translation. So you got to think that the words that are being used, with the exception of names, because names are very important in magic, but the words that are being used in the spells to summon these spirits, I think it's more the intention of those words and the fact that you're saying the words, which is going to draw you further into the ritual. And so I think that's more what it is. And because they had an incomplete translation, it's not that they were missing parts of spells. They were missing an entire complete book. So they just had the spells that were available to them from the, I believe the magic books, the magic information were the third and fourth books. And the first two books are the story of how Abraham learned this magic from Abramelin.
Okay, so in this book, Abraham had a belief that every single person on Earth had their own literal personal demon, kind of assigned to them. And this,
like the opposite of a guardian angel,
right? And this book was supposed to show you how to summon and control, much like Solomon's demon wrangling manual, control these entities, these your personal demon, and have it do shit for you.
So basically, how to get your own demon bitch.
Yes, but the curse kicks in.
Demon bitch, clean my room.
Oh God, I would be too scared to ask it to do anything. I'd be like, just sit there.
Excuse me, demon sir. Would you mind cleaning my room? It just kind of grunts at you. Okay, just keep doing what you're doing. Totally cool.
Yeah.
Your demon gets all fat and lazy and just hangs out on the couch and farts everywhere.
Yeah. Then we'll be best friends.
You're just like me.
Yep.
You guys start a metal band together. Mateo and his personal demon.
Yeah, he'll have actual lyrics from hell.
It'll be awesome.
It'll be in some gargled, unknown, unspeakable language. It'll sound like noises to us.
Everybody that listens to it, their nose and ears instantly start bleeding and they lose all their sanity. And their hair turns white.
Now I can never do it.
Or maybe that's more reason why you should do it. Let's summon your personal demon, Mateo. Let's get this shit going. Get the show on the road.
As these books are trying to show us, that could be dangerous.
Yeah, if you're a pussy.
Shit, if Aleister Crowley summoned Nessie and fucking couldn't close his portal.
Yeah. That's what happened. Nessie came out because they didn't have the spell to send her back.
Right. That's what I instantly thought of. I was like, that's why. That's why he cut out of that house, too. He was like, oh, shit, we're missing a book, you asshole. We got to go.
Yeah. Bell. Let someone else figure it out.
You know how many demons we've set loose in here? Can you imagine, like, a week later after they got out of there, seeing reports of Nessie and having them look at each other and go, holy shit.
Yeah, they think they're in the clear, like, whew, that was a close call. News report says that there's been a lake monster in Loch Ness. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
We did it again.
At least it's bound to the water.
No, because remember the early sightings, it was on land.
Yeah.
And then went into the water.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, earlier, you sent me a text of the cover of a book.
Yeah.
That looks scary.
It is scary. It's terrifying. Well, the Book of Abraham the Mage, there's quite a few books that are similar to that are all kind of cut from the same cloth, so to speak. They're very, very much Christian-centric magic books that, even though they're teaching you how to summon demons and spirits and things that you would normally think would go against what a Christian would do, the power in these books lies within the Christian faith. So in a lot of ways, like, well, I guess we can bring these books all back to the Testament of Solomon that we talked about on an episode a year or two ago. But King Solomon was able to bind demons to do his bidding, and using the Testament of Solomon as inspiration, there's been a series of I say series, but I don't think series is the best way to put it, because it's not like they're linked together. They're all their own individual books, but it's kind of similar working where you're using the name of God or specific angels to bind demons to do your bidding. So you're summoning these demons and then threatening them and forcing them to do your bidding against their will. So there's books like the Book of Abraham the Mage. There's the Grimorum Vernum, the Grand Grimoire of the Red Dragon, and the most famous is probably the Lesser Keys of Solomon, also known as the Goetia. And they're all just different versions. Well, I don't want to say different versions, but they're different books that kind of have the same system, I guess, to summon these beings, which are supposed to be evil, and then using the power of God to bind them. But the Lesser Key of Solomon, it's kind of it's not a work of fiction because it's an actual grimoire, but it's tied to Solomon, but it's more, I would say, derived or inspired by the Testament of Solomon rather than actually taken from any actual magic work that Solomon had done. But it's said that the spells contained in the Goetia are what could be used to bind the demons that Solomon bound. And then they list the 72 demons and specifically what angels have power over them and what you need to do to summon them and all that stuff. But again, you're holding these beings against their will and making them do things that they don't want to do under threat of an all-powerful God. So it's very Christian-centric. It's definitely not something that would be, well, I don't want to say it wouldn't be effective with other religions, but it's supposed to be, when you're using the name of God or the name of these angels, you are using your faith in God. So if you're just throwing these names out there and you have no faith that these names have any real power, it's not going to do fucking anything for you. It doesn't matter. But the earliest known copy, I should say, seems to be from 1570. And it was heavily inspired by, like I said, the Testament of Solomon, but also the Pseudo-Monarchia Demonium, which is the false hierarchy of demons, which because it was kind of based on that, it wouldn't have been able to have come out in this form anyway before the late 1500s. But there's a lot of books that kind of tie into this, and it gets muddled because there's so many different books that are similar, and there's a lot of mythology surrounding them. But there's another book called The Office of Spirits, which also seems to have a lot of similarities. I haven't looked through The Office of Spirits, so I don't really know too much about that. Most of these books I actually own, except for the Book of Abraham. I actually don't have that one yet, but I do have Grimoire Vernum. I've got the Lesser Key of Solomon. I've got the Heptameron. I've got the Grand Grimoire. They're all pretty similar. Some are longer than others. They've got different types of things in them, but the core of it is summoning these demons to do your will, to do your bidding against their will. That's the core premise in all of these, and tying to God. But there's one book that kind of is in the same, I don't want to say same tradition because it's kind of the opposite, but a grimoire for summoning these demons, or as they were originally named, jinn. There's a book that's really similar to the Testament of Solomon, but it seems to be darker in tone and more closely related to what we would think of as the Necronomicon. But its history is weird. So it's called the Miscellaneo de Solomon, and it was first discovered in 1969 when the Mudahar Palace was undergoing renovations. And during these renovations, the secret room was uncovered, and buried under the floor in the secret room was this manuscript. And the manuscript consisted of 71 folios that date back to 1428. So this predates the Lesser Key of Solomon, as well as the Office of Spirits. But this gives the account of King Solomon's binding of the 72 demons, just like the Testament of Solomon does. But this one is, like I said, a lot darker and gives a lot more information into how these demons were bound and summoned. And it's thought that maybe this sort of knowledge is something that comes forward every now and again and implants itself in the mind of humans. And whether it's some demonic inspiration or a cosmic inspiration, it's hard to say. But on the episode we did about the Necronomicon, we had referenced the idea that the Necronomicon, well, not a real book in the sense of a book with pages and binding, and that it's more of a I don't know really how to say it. I guess more of a psychic book, maybe, or just something that's untangible, like just this knowledge or this information that just kind of shows up in people's minds every now and again. And Lovecraft himself admitted that the Necronomicon was not any real book, but it was something that came to him in a dream. So what if these books, these means of summoning these otherworldly beings, these non-physical things and calling them into our reality, is just something that's able to pop into existence every now and again. And Lovecraft's way of doing it was writing these stories about the old ones, which in a lot of ways kind of mirror demonic entities. And they're only able to be summoned through certain magical rites that are only contained within the Necronomicon. And we've got the Lesser Key of Solomon that's there to only summon these specific demons. But then we've got this book, the book that Mateo originally referenced, called the Book of Smokeless Fire. And this book is derived off of the teachings from this mystery book that was found, the Miscellaneo de Solomon. There was only the one manuscript that was found of this, and it's still in the collection of the owners of the palace that it was found in. So it's not in any museums. You can't go see it, but there have been translations made of this in Latin and in English, and I believe French as well. But based on this work and the work of all these other grimoires, the author of the Book of Smokeless Fire, who is a left-hand path black magician, he created this book as a mean to summon the 72 jinn and unleash them on the world. So the whole point of this book is to destroy the forces of order and to bring chaos into the world. I'm going to read just a page and a half out of the intro to this book, just so you can get an idea of exactly what the purpose of this book is and what it entails. So he writes, I have thought long on this book, whether or not to bring it forth unto the world of men, for in it resides great pain and destruction waiting to be set free, much like Pandora's box waiting to be opened. Though through much contemplation I have come to the obvious decision to release this terror from its obscure and hidden origins for the sole purpose of spiritual balance. The world is in strife, though it is not chaos that is the cause, but the ever-oppressing forces of order. Order is trying to control everything. Right now we see this in our political system, now that its dealings are becoming more and more transparent. Ironically, we also see this in the lack of news coverage concerning the forces of chaos that fight back against this spreading control, because order is suppressing it. The balance is not equal. Soon drones will fill the skies watching every movement. Cameras are at every traffic stop. Order has the upper hand, and though chaos is growing in power as we of the left-hand path grow in number and presence, I believe chaos needs to be an influx of raw, brutal strength and pure destruction to help overcome and establish a new spiritual understanding upon the earth. The gates of hell must be opened. I see this book as an equalizer. This text will help sweep the world clean in preparation of a new era, unrestrained by religious dogma and corrupt control. It is to be unleashed against those who would uphold order. It is to be wielded against those who would be happily dominated by it. It is to be brandished with no remorse and work to destroy those who would stand in our way. It is to be used against those that are of the blood of Claiborne Abel. The book that lies within your hands is a weapon. It could easily prove to be one of the most diabolical works to date, and is the first of its kind in hundreds of years, if ever, to work with these entities in a manner that involves evocation and command. The beings that are conjured and work within these pages are of pure wrath, only offering the blackest deeds to be unleashed upon mankind without hesitation or mercy at the sole command of the Black Magician. All Necronomicons come with a warning, and though this book is not truly a Necronomicon, one will be given here nonetheless. This is a book that lists the names and habitations as well as the bane of 72 ancient and sinister bloodthirsty jinn. Unlike the Goetia, these interdimensional entities cause only suffering and death to the human race. They are not here to help you find something lost, open locked doors, or turn you invisible. They are here to cause pain and to kill. They are extremely dangerous, and the utmost respect and caution must be implemented while dealing with them. There were cures and prayers listed in the original manuscript to counter the sinister deeds and inflictions these jinn caused. I have not included them. One must be certain before summoning these jinn that the course of action they have chosen is correct, and stand by it. So that's just a page and a half from the introduction to give you an idea of how by using this book you are not fucking around. And it contains a history of the jinn in there, and then it contains some rituals and symbols to use in preparing to summon the jinn, and then specific rites for each one of the 72 jinn. And again, he did not include any way to reverse these spells. So it's one of those things, if you're not going to be unleashing it on a target, don't bother, because it's going to come for you instead.
Okay, I have a couple questions. When did this book come out?
2014. I think the original printing was 2013. It was a very small original run. They were all leather-bound editions that were given to a specific group of people that attended one of the rituals that was within the book. Everyone got the first printing. But then it was the second printing was a paperback that's, I guess, somewhat mass-produced. Like, you're not going to go to Barnes & Noble and find it, but I'm pretty sure you can get it on Amazon now.
Yeah, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Does the author give his name?
He goes by a pseudonym. The name he goes by is S. Ben Kane, but Kane is spelled Qayn.
Are these the same 72 demons that Solomon summoned, or different ones that are just, like he said, death-driven?
The names of the jinn here are purported to be the names as they originally appeared in the original manuscript. The names of the demons that were given in the Testament of Solomon and that are also named in the Lesser Key of Solomon and a lot of those other grimoires I mentioned, they're like names given by European Christians based on, I think we talked about it before on the show, how when the Christians took over a lot of the pagans, they turned their gods into demons. Mm-hmm. So these demons became popular. Like, we all know Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, but that's why a lot of demons are seen with goat legs and horns, because of Pan and the various other horned gods that were worshipped by pagans. And then they dredged up the old Baphomet symbology and equated that to the devil as well. And so they took a lot of these names that were familiar to demonologists and religious nerds of the time and put them in place of the original 72 names of the jinn. And rather than being jinn, because jinn doesn't make sense in Europe, because who in Europe knows about the jinn in the Middle Ages, they changed it to demons, because demons was a very real thing that was, talked about in the Middle Ages in regard to the Christian religion and heaven and hell. So people were familiar with the concept of demons and the devil. So it just kind of made the easy transition from the jinn and demons. So when you're working the Goetia, you're not summoning these original jinn that were locked away. You're summoning lesser evil spirits, I guess, that are taking on the names that you're giving them or that are attributed to them.
That was pretty terrifying stuff. It started off as being interesting, but got pretty somber and serious feeling towards the end there.
Yeah, it's a book that I wanted for a while. I wasn't really sure exactly what it was. I just knew it was a book that detailed summoning jinn, and I'm very interested in the occult. I've got a lot of books, like I mentioned. I've got most of the books that are kind of based on the Goetic system. But this was one that I had wanted for a while, and I got it as a gift, but apparently it was really difficult to get for me at the time. There was a lot of issues with the shipping, like it got lost in the mail, and then it got returned back to the sender, and then it had to be reordered and reshipped, and like it was just a big mess to get it to me before it was given to me as a gift. It was a hard time getting it delivered, but as soon as I got it, I was super pumped. The cover is super badass. A lot of the sigils inside the book are really cool. So just as, like, I guess a source of well, I don't even want to say entertainment because it's not really entertaining, but like as a means to feed some curiosity. It's pretty interesting, but it is scary. And as someone who's got a pretty decent collection of occult books and magic books and things like that, even books on demonology and stuff, none of that stuff really freaks me out. This book, though, is one that I would personally consider to be dangerous. It's not something that I would even attempt to really dabble in. I don't want to unleash some of these things on the world. Like there's, hold on, I want to look through these lists because there's some of these are fucking terrifying.
Okay.
All right, so there's one. I don't want to say its name out loud, but it's the fifth one, and it appears as a tall man with a single eye, having the powerful hind legs of a golden lion. He resides in dark, water-filled canals. When he attacks his victims, he causes paralysis and then infects their blood while the victim lies helpless until they die.
Jeez.
And then there's one specifically designed to create stillborns. Like if you'd summon it against someone who's pregnant to kill their baby before it's born. Like just really terrible shit.
Wow.
And it's like it really, to me, it's the closest thing to the Necronomicon that could exist. Like it seems like it's like anyone who's read Lovecraft, you always read about the fucking crazy people that are trying to summon this or that entity from the Necronomicon. And you're like, what kind of psychopath would want to unleash that thing on the world, or what madness would inspire someone to want to do that? And that's how I feel about this. Like just looking through these jinn and what they're capable of doing and the things that they are known to do. It's pretty scary, man.
Now, out of all the books that you have, do you get that dangerous feeling from any other books, or is only this one?
No, just this one. And this one, it freaks my girlfriend out. She gets really freaked out by it, and she's the one that bought it for me. But anytime I get it out, she gets freaked out. Like, why are you looking at that again? And it's weird because it is something that I almost feel like it does call out to me in a way, like not like actually like I'm hearing the voices like, hey, come, but like I just like I'll sit here and it's on the bookshelf right next to my desk with all my other fucking weirdo books, and like I'll look over at it and I'll see it, and as soon as I look at it, it's like, open me up, pull me out, take a look, just look through, and I don't really get that with my other books. This one, for some reason, it just, I don't know. It scares the shit out of me, but I know that I'll never use it. So for me, it's nothing more than a curiosity. But it does freak me out. I'm not going to lie.
Do you think that since it is a newer book, when you read about something like this or hear about something like this, you expect this book to be 100 years old, 500 years old, to be written by a guy with a long black beard with skulls on his desk with candles in him and shit like that. The fact that it's so new, do you think that heightens the scariness of this book? Because it's kind of like archaic things refined.
Yeah, well, and it's based on an ancient manuscript too. So that's, it's got the basis in this old magic, but it's altered. Like, I mean, he said he left out the stuff to counter these things. It's made for the very specific purpose of unleashing these things on the world and not taking it back once you do it.
Man.
So that's what makes it even scarier, because in all the other books, all the Goetic books, there's very specific things that you have to do to banish the spirit, so that you're not leaving it lingering around. You're not allowing it to get you outside of your circle. There's a lot of things you have to do to protect yourself. And here, the protection isn't given. He gives you some, early on when he's describing how to set up the ritual and everything, he highly recommends having a knife or a sword. And it's not that the knife or sword is going to physically protect you, but it creates the illusion that you're ready to fight. So by having a weapon with you, it's basically you saying, I'm not here to fuck around. You know, and the demon knows that your fucking shitty metal dagger's not going to do anything. You know your shitty metal dagger's not going to do anything. But it's there to give you power. And that's a lot of thing with magic. It's all about the power of will and the power of your intent. So if you go in with that confidence that what you're doing is going to work, it's going to be successful, it's going to be what you want it to be, and the outcome, you know, you in your mind, the outcome is already there. You just have to follow through with the thing to get to the outcome. And you go in with it like that, and you have the power. But again, this is not, with this book, you're not forcing these things against their will. You're calling them forth to do what they're what they want to do. All you're doing is calling them and providing them with a target.
Jeez. That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, dude. I mean,
I know, right? It's fucking scary.
It really is.
Someone using this book and actually using it, that terrifies me.
Yeah, normally this would be the part where we enter a joke about release the demon that causes insane hemorrhoids, but I mean, I can't bring myself to do that. It's actually scary. It's actually scary. I mean, just think about, like, I mean, you see movies to where, you know, somebody summons something and the first thing out of its mouth is, you know, who dare summons me, or something to that effect. But when you apply this to being real, as this book does, as this book sounds and feels, I mean, it almost commands a respect to where a demon's not going to just yell something like that. It's going to know that whoever summoned it is powerful in one way or another. It's weird that this book is just floating around. Like you said, it's not everywhere, but...
Yeah, but it's if you want it, you'll be able to find it somewhere. You know, I mean, there's a lot of grimoires out there. I've got another one. It's a left-hand path grimoire, but it's nowhere near as dark. It's called the Grimoire of Tiamat, and it uses the gods from Mesopotamia. I think Babylon specifically. It uses Tiamat, who was this huge serpent dragon thing that she was responsible for creating the world after she was killed. But before she was killed, she spawned all these monsters, and they've all got these mystical powers and stuff. And this book is the Grimoire of Tiamat is all about working with them, but it's not to unleash them on the world to destroy and cause pain and everything. Like, there's things like to gain knowledge and to work with them towards specific goals and stuff. So it's more like a cooperative thing rather than a weaponized thing.
Right.
Like that, to me, that book is like the equivalent of pulling the pin on a grenade and just tossing it. Like, once you pull that pin, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's why this book feels so dangerous and sounds so dangerous, is because it's not a cooperative thing. It's not something that you're going to have something do for you or do. It's going to do what it does.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of calling it forth, is to let it do what it does. You just, you give it the target. It's like a bomb or a bullet. You know, you point it. The whole purpose of that bullet is to kill. So all you're doing is pointing. The bullet does the rest.
Man.
Yeah, you can't unsummon a bullet once you fire it from a gun, and that's how these things are.
Bruce Lee said that.
Bruce Lee said that.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast? Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.